the video. Okay, so there is a question. Can somebody go over the completed forms before they mail them in? We probably don't have resources right now to do that, but you do have 3 tries to do that. I mean, I know you don't want to just randomly try, but like I said, to the Department of Justice, and if you have anything that you highlight that's a question, you can call the Senator's hotline, but the Department of Justice is also going to try everything they can to make sure that you're successful. We are now ready to turn this over to library. I really need to stick to our rules that I just broke.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Diana Tucker again from the library. So to start off, hopefully a lot of you should have this flyer already in your hand. If not, you can grab one on your way out of the building. This basically just has a summary of who is eligible, what you need, and on this flyer is a QR code that if you scan that code, it will take you directly to the library's webpage with the information on it, or you can go to our website, stchlibrary.org, and if you scroll down just a little bit, you're going to see a nice big box that says RECA on it. And if you click there, that is going to take you to the same place as the QR code on the flyer. And so what you see here initially is just some general information about what RECA is, some of the same information that the doctor from Senator Hawley's office just went over. So that's what you'll see here. But what I want to really point out to you is on the left side of the screen where you see how the library can help. If you click there, that is going to give you more information. At the very bottom of this page, you see all of the resources we have available at the library for you if you would like to do your own research. If not, we can help. Can you scroll back up a little bit, Zach? Thank you. Sorry, I did that a little out of order. So what you see here at the top where it says Library Assistance, you can click here and fill out an online research request. That's going to ask you for a lot of information so that way we can do our best searching and find the documentation that you need. And then we will email you the documentation along with the cover letter that was just spoken about earlier. So you have the certified information, you have the information to send in with your form. If you prefer not to do that, you could also click on the in-person appointments, and you can make an appointment to work with a staff member at any of our branch locations for 45 minutes, and they will help you as best as we can to answer your questions, to help you figure out where you need to go for your research. And if we can't help you, we can at least give you information on where you can go to get the specific document you are looking for. Let's see here. Also, after tonight's meeting, across the hallway, we have some stations set up with staff. So if you'd like to go ahead and make an appointment this evening, you can make that appointment to go to whatever branch is closest to you, and then you can set that appointment up tonight if you'd like. We will also have applications, but I think we ran out of applications. But they're nodding their heads. Yes, we ran out of printed applications, but you can stop in at your local branch and we will give you a copy of the application for free. So it's a 24-page document, so that way you don't have to worry about coming up with that. Thank you. So you don't have to worry about coming up with that. We will give you the form for free. You know, I don't know if they will. Yes, they will accept double-sided forms. Last but not least, the recording that they've been working on tonight will be posted on the library's website on our RECA page, so you can come back and review what was said in tonight's meeting if you have further questions. And I think that does it for me. I'm going to stick to the FAQ rule so I don't get in trouble.
Okay, so we'll get back to that. So now we are going to have our recorder of deeds. Mary Dempsey and Kurt Barr, presenting on some of the county resources.
Okay. Hi, Mary Dempsey, Recorder of Deeds.
Kurt Barr, Director of Elections. We're both from the county,
Yes.
and we are, our offices work hand in hand to be able to help you guys take care of the records requests that you have from us at the county level.
So I know on the application it says your tax receipts. The issue that we have with that was retention schedules. So we all tried to work together to be able to offer you the best resource that the county can. So we have a designated web page, and then if you go to elections or the recorder's website, we have a link. Just scroll down. There's a form that you fill out. It's just where it says complete this form. And then you have the option, you're going to put your name in as requester. And then as you scroll down, you put your email. If you don't have an email, you can put none and a phone number. But we need to have one of those, so if we have a question about your request, we're able to contact you. And then you have the option of getting your deed, your marriage license, and your voter registration. And then we both get the email.
And it could be one or all three. It doesn't matter. This form goes to both of our offices, and we're working hand in hand to be able to get these documents to you in a timely manner.
Yes. And you have to fill out the form in order to do the request. It helps us keep track of it so we don't lose any of those requests. So for the deed, if you still live in the property, what you get is your ownership deed when you first bought it, and then we give you a letter verifying the address. So if you look at it and maybe it has a different zip code, but you're in the qualifying zip code, that letter's going to confirm that. And then if you have moved from that, you're going to get the purchase deed, and then you're also going to get the sale deed along with that letterhead stating that this address is within the qualifying program. Okay. And then with the marriage license, I've had a few requests that you're not in St. Charles County. If it's not in St. Charles County, I will try to find it and direct you to the office that does have that recorded marriage license and how to get it if I can.
And then the voting records, because the fact that our state voter registration database is less than 2 decades old, and prior to that, we did not keep voter records of people who passed away beyond the 5-year record retention. If you're getting records for somebody who's passed away over a decent span of time, we may not have those records. If somebody has passed away more recently, when their record is imported into the current voter registration system that we have, we will have that record even if they have passed away. But we do need to know either their address, their information, so we can hold them up and try to find them. It is a little bit harder for us to find a deceased record than it is an active voter record. But that's so we can't answer positively every request, but we work on every request to make sure that we can get that answer for you guys.
And then we know how parking is. So we give you the option to either have the document mailed to you, you can pick it up at the election authority, or you can pick it up at the county administration building. So if you're ordering a deed and you want to pick it up at elections, you can. If you want your voter registration and you live closer to the admin building, you can do that as well.
So if you don't know, the election authority office is not downtown St. Charles next to the recorder's office. It is over on Highway 79 at Turner Boulevard. It's more central in our county. And we actually have much easier parking most days. So if you want to come and pick it up, if you're getting information from the recorder's office as well as the election authority's office, the recorder's office sends that to our office and we bundle it all together so you can get all of it at once. We're trying to do as much as we can to get you the records for this program. I've dedicated a staff member to focus primarily on this. It was just kind of pointed out to me, this room holds about 350 people, and our county, between my office and Mary's office, we've received a little more than 350 requests. So the number of people in this room represent the number of requests that we've processed so far. There's 500 in this room?
There's 350 on the back half, this front
Oh,
half.
I'm sorry. Okay, we haven't even processed as many requests as fits in this room. I thought there was 350 for the total room. Okay, there's 500 people in this room. Wow. Okay. So that doesn't mean that everybody who's here is obviously processed requests. We're just saying that, we've processed about 350 requests so far. That's about how many have come in. And we will continue to do so as you continue to request information. It is our job, our privilege to be able to help you out in this federal program that's been expanded to help our community.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is our expert panel is going to bring up chairs here. We had them down on the side because we didn't want to block the information. While they're gathering their chairs to come join us on stage, if you want to line up, Zach, we need to make sure we have a mic over there. There's a man standing in blue, if he could wave. He's standing by the mic. So that's our question. Now remember, there's more than 500 people here. So we're all going to try to get an hour and 10 minutes worth of questions answered. Sometimes I might rush people. If you feel rushed, know that I love you and I will not leave until you get an answer. In the meantime, I'm going to hold up this. If you see this, grab it. There's some people leaving because they don't have questions, and that's good, but here's the number. It's 1-202-228-4388. That is Senator Hawley's RECA hotline. Let me do it again. It's 202-228-4388. I'm State Representative Tricia Byrnes. I ran for office because of the impact to my family and to you, because of the impact to you in the room. If you need me, this is my personal cell phone. Text me, never leave me a voicemail. I should just make that a hashtag and put it on my t-shirt. But text me on my personal cell phone. You could ring it, please don't. It's there doing a live video on my state rep page. My cell phone is 314-397-4037. So that's 314-397-4037. I'm probably going to listen to you, listen to your story, and then see how I can get you to the best expert, because this panel is going to know the answers more than me. So do we have our Q&A ready? Perfect.
Trish, real quick.
Yes.
The panel, I need you guys to repeat the question in case.
I will do that. I'll hold my mic so that I can repeat the question, and you guys have two mics to go around. Perfect. Okay. Let's try to have one question. Sometimes people I don't have to get the opportunity when I ask 3 questions. Okay.
My question is for the last two that were up there, the recorder of the deeds. What about people from St. Louis County? Is there a place for us to go? Because that's excellent information.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we do know that.
I do know that.
You did a great job, but you want to go ahead and answer that.
So-
Wait, hold on. The question is, if you're from St. Louis County, do they have information to the detail that our fine folks at St. Louis County have prepared?
Okay, so St. Louis County, their recorder is, you can get your purchase and sale deed from them as well. They are not doing the additional letter because they don't have the staffing for it, but as long as you look at that deed and it has the address on there and the zip code, you should be fine. I just noticed that it was just a precautionary thing to just make sure. You're welcome.
Dr. Mullenpaw, I think you've also seen
Oh.
considerable information at the St. Louis.
I'm sorry, she asked about, I didn't repeat it.
Okay, the speakers are off down in the back, or is it the microphone's not working?
Is it me?
Can you hear me back there?
It's me.
M or L?
It's L.
Okay, what's your say? It's M. M, what's your say? M. Can you test for me?
Testing. Can you hear me back there?
So it's me. Sorry. So she asked if St. Louis County has the same option with getting the deed. They do. They just don't provide you with the additional letter. So you can get your purchase and sale deed from the recorder of deeds. They have information on their website.
Okay, and then I wanted to have Dr. Mullenpaw tell you, you probably have seen the resources the St. Louis Library has put together. I know they were very dedicated. What have you seen from them?
Yes. So the St. Louis County Library is performing a very similar service to the St. Charles County Library. They also are accompanying the documents that they locate with that certified cover letter. And I think St. Louis County is in the process of trying to rectify the problem with the certification letter, but their documents, many of them do have that stamp or that seal, and that kind of operates in lieu of a certification letter. So if you receive a document from St. Louis County, most likely it's a certified copy and it will be accepted.
Perfect
It's
answers.
certified,
Thank
it just doesn't have the additional letter, that's all.
Yes, so it's already certified. It didn't need the cover letter. Next question.
Thank you. In lieu of the fact that I think I've heard you have 3 chances to get the information that's required, I heard Dr. M mention that more is not necessarily better. Could you elaborate on
Okay, so
more is
great
not
question.
better?
So everyone knows, I have been told that the Department of Justice will give you 3 opportunities to make sure your application is correct. So this question was, but some of us also say more is not better. Don't inundate them with paperwork. You can identify who you are, your diagnosis, and your location with less paperwork. You don't, all of those options are an or, they're not and. You don't have to have each of those. So I'm going to let Dr. Mullenpaw answer that question of reassure us that we can do less and still be good on our application.
Absolutely. So when we say less is more, but also ensuring that it's exactly the kind of documentation the Department of Justice is going to need. If you have a pathology report that very clearly demonstrates the diagnosis of a primary cancer, you only need those 5, 6, 7 pages. That is what we mean by less is more. You don't need all 400 pages of your medical record in addition to the pathology report. The same goes for the proof of residence. If you have your high school transcripts that demonstrate that you were in one of the impacted zip codes for 4 years, that very clearly demonstrates your residency, okay, your physical presence in the impacted zip code. You don't also need W-2s and voting records and your house deed in addition to the high school transcripts.
So on the high school transcript and on the medical record, would you suggest making sure there is a dated signed copy from the doctor and then a cover letter from the Education Institute if it's not got a certificate?
Absolutely. That document, regardless of whether it's 1 or 10 pages or more, must bear the seal or the stamp of the issuing institution or must be accompanied by a signed and dated cover letter saying, we, the record holders, verify that this document was in our possession and it is for such and such an applicant. The document must be accompanied by that.
Okay.
Unless it's your personal yearbook and you physically have the book and you're mailing that into the Department of Justice and it cannot necessarily be replicated. And they will look at that. They will look at those kinds of original documents, but that would be the only exception.
That's what we mean by they really, really want you to be successful. You fought long and hard. They want you to be successful. I wanted to point out another thing on this quality of the application. When you fill out the form, it's 25 or more pages, and I know it looks daunting, but when you go through it, the instructions of how to fill it out are embedded in that form. So that's why it just walks you through it. It's kind of like RECA form for dummies, although I do know there'll still be questions, so that probably wasn't even fair. All right, next question.
I guess I'm RECA for dummies because
Oh, okay, I shouldn't have said that. Shame on me.
I have a question on 14 and page 15, because 14 is asking you to fill in and approve the release of your information from the state cancer it's asking for a release of medical information from the state. I'm providing my medical information and I'm not registered for the state. So do I need to fill out page 14?
Okay, so let's
And then I have a
answer.
question on 15 because it asks for a claim number, and what's a claim number?
Okay, let's start with the claim number because that's easy and I think it came.
Okay.
Do we have to have do the claim number?
No, so let me repeat the two questions, just so that we're clear. The questions were on pages 14 and 15. Essentially, what are they? What do they do? How do I go about filling those out? So page 15.
Do I need to?
Page 15, the only part that you don't fill is that claim number. That is given to you by the Department of Justice once they receive your claim. So if you see claim number anywhere, ignore that. That's administrative purposes only.
We do send that in, but we do send that in with our.
Every page you have should be sent in.
Okay, and 14 we fill in even though we're
With
releasing our own
14,
information.
That is for the Missouri Cancer Registry. You would not have registered. That is between the hospital and the cancer registry. The hospital takes care of that. Once they have your diagnosis, they are in contact with the Missouri Cancer Registry. But in order for the Department of Justice to be part of that conversation, they have to have your permission. And that's what page 14 is all about. You just need to sign, date, write your name. The Department of Justice will take care of the rest.
So page 14, is that required?
It is not. If you do not want the Department of Justice to contact the Missouri Cancer Registry or the state in which you were diagnosed, okay, it may not necessarily be Missouri in your case. I want to be clear about that. You do not have to authorize it. It's helpful to the Department of Justice for processing your claim more quickly.
So what you're saying is all of us are already registered with the state, or if we have cancer, we're registered, we've been registered?
If you were diagnosed in the state of Missouri or another state that has a cancer registry, and almost every state in the union has one, then most likely your name is on there.
All right, thank you.
Great questions. Next question.
Okay. I will be doing, wait, this is falling. Okay, sorry. Trying to get taller. Oh. Okay, I will be collecting paperwork. And my sister-in-law would be Self with breast cancer, and she's also a surviving beneficiary sibling. She has dementia.
Okay,
So-
so this is a question of how do I advocate on behalf of a patient who has dementia?
Absolutely. So her question is, her sister-in-law has dementia, but she is eligible both as a self-claimant and as a surviving beneficiary, correct? So what happens in that case? So if there's a self-claimant who needs assistance, that is why there is part 1 and part 2 of the claim form. There is a place to put the eligible claimant's information and then the information of the person who is assisting them with the application but is not going to receive the compensation. So that's what part 1 and part 2 are for. In the case of a surviving beneficiary, let's say in her case, is she surviving spouse or surviving child?
And her brother would be her power of attorney currently.
Okay, so in that case, she's a surviving child and she has a brother. Her brother could be the one who would submit the claim, but he would need to list every sibling and provide the information for that sibling. And that would be anytime siblings are applying together. It's one application and all of the siblings are listed. While we're on this topic, I know that the question does arise of if I'm not in contact with my siblings, or if some of my siblings don't want to participate for any reason, or if I've tried to contact them and I can't be in touch with them? How do I provide the documentation? Do the best that you can. Provide as much about the siblings as you possibly can. But if there's a case where you cannot get in touch with the other siblings or you are estranged, and this goes for adopted and step siblings as well, okay? The Department of Justice is considering natural, adopted, and stepchildren as surviving beneficiaries. Provide as much as you can. The Department of Justice will do the rest.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
Yes. Thank you so much, first of all, for taking time to be here for all of us. I need clarification on leukemia. Is it exposed after the age of 20 or diagnosed after the age of 20?
Okay, so that question is for more clarification on leukemia. Is it exposed after 20 years or diagnosed after 20 years?
Both. And so the way that this works, that we've decided when we've really looked closely at the language of the application, is that exposure has to be after the age of 20. And so because you have to have 2 years of exposure prior to diagnosis, that the age of diagnosis for the leukemia would most likely start at age 22.
Okay.
That's not necessarily every case, but in general, it's both and.
Okay, thank you.
And I have heard some people that have advocated for this a long time. There's a nurse that's also an engineer, and she said when she looked into it, maybe you know some more information, there's latency periods for this radiation. Now, there's also, that's based on old science, so if there's new science out there, I still keep it on the table to advocate. And as this gets close to needing to be re-upped, if you would, at the end of 2027, that's where we would need a really great effort to look into things like the childhood leukemia. Fair?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, I know one, just real quick. Attaching affidavits to a big packet, can it go in like this or does it have to be stapled like
So you're saying, can it be attached with a paperclip?
Yeah.
Can it be attached with a
Okay.
paperclip, a big
Yes.
application?
All right.
Yes. In fact, I advise paper clips because it's easier for the Department of Justice to work with the application as opposed to staples. I think that's always a great safeguard.
The question was,
Name on every page.
should there be, I know, I violated some of our Q&A rules too. She said, do you have to have the name on every page of your application? And she's saying, as a safeguard, it's always a good idea to put your name on every page. Okay, you're
Hi, Dr. M, this is kind of a piggyback to what you were referring to earlier about the sibling. If there's a sibling that just really doesn't want to participate in this, and you're filing for your deceased parent because they don't want to open up old wounds or whatnot, and I know you said to get as much information on them as you can, I understand that. How does when you have like more than one sibling one sibling files for the several siblings, how do the payments work then? Is it sent to the person filing and then you divvy it up, or how does that work to make sure that it's done equitably?
So the question was, for siblings who are filing together, how is payment received? How is it divided? So ultimately, this is the Department of Justice decision as to how they're going to handle this. We're still waiting for updated regulations from the Department of Justice that are hopefully going to provide very, very, very specific responses to these kinds of questions. So I can tell you what we do know right now is that the Department of Justice says they will divide that $25,000 evenly among the siblings. If the sibling, if you have a case where the sibling does not want to participate, I encourage you to include a statement, an affidavit in your application explaining your situation. And it could be different for everyone. It could be a matter of estrangement. It could be a fact of it's traumatic for the sibling and they don't want to go there. Whatever the situation might be, just explain that to the Department of Justice. That will help them to know how to divide the payment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is, what about children diagnosed before the age of 2?
The question is, what about children diagnosed before the age of 2?
This is a very hard one, and I'm working with our legal team in DC, who's working with the Department of Justice to try to obtain more clarification about children in general, infants and children. Right now, it seems that there must be those 2 years that the Department of Justice has stipulated, 2 years of exposure in one of the impacted areas. So does in utero count as exposure?
The question was, so does in utero count as exposure?
We don't know the answer to that question right now.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry for that because that's a really tough situation.
Hi. I worked at the community college for 35 years. It is physically located in Connellville, 63303. However, early on, it was decided to run all mail through St. Peter, 63376, for a larger post office. So how does one prove? I mean, I can provide proof of employment, but it's going to look like it's 76 when in reality, it's physically located in 04.
So 04 is 63304 is one of the covered zip codes. And this even comes up in other areas. But they used a post office for mailing purposes, which meant their mailing address was not a covered zip code. How do you explain that to the Department of Justice, that it was physically present in the correct zip code?
That's a great question. So when I get these kinds of questions, I encourage everyone to keep in mind that what the Department of Justice is trying to do with the documents you provide is to piece together your story. So in these cases, we have to be creative with the kinds of documentation that we gather to piece together the story. So with St. Charles Community College, we might include proof of employment, even if the address is different. We may also include a map of the campus demonstrating its physical location. If you are a staff or a faculty and you had a classroom or an office assigned to you, and that is on an email or some other kind in your email signature or some other form of documentation, we're going to include that as well in your application. So trying to piece together that narrative. And then also if you can obtain a statement from the community college just saying this is our process, the mail comes through zip code, but we're physically located in this zip code. That's how we would work with something like that.
I want to jump in and just tell the camera this. So the question was, we have a person that worked at the community college. There will be thousands that would have went to that community college, where the community college was physically located in 63304, but the post office for mailing purposes was outside that zip code. So how do they prove that they went to that school for over 2 years when the mailing address is not in the right zip code? So what I'm going to ask as a favor, because I know you guys are great at that, can you from Senator Hawley's office reach out to the folks at the St. Charles Community College and ask them to draft a letter so that it's automatically available, so that the next employee that goes there, they can say, you know, I anticipated you would need this document. And then there would be the letter you would ask them to include with their employment or their student records?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank
you.
you for that question.
Hi. For an exposure from ages 0 to 5, how do you prove residency? He's 27 now, but his exposure was from age 0 to 5 and wasn't at a K through 12 at that point.
So how do you prove residency for 0 to 5 that wouldn't have school records?
So we get to really be creative with this. So the birth certificate, just demonstrating that that is your child, is going to be a key part of it. The other key part is going to be demonstrating the parent's physical address. Personal property taxes or rent payments or something along those lines to demonstrate.
Can I use the same thing that I'm a claimant and my son is also going to be a claimant? Can I use the same information that I got from their office for my residency for his residency?
So can she use the same documents because she's a claimant? Her son is also a claimant. I feel like you can't use a photocopy. You're going to have to get 2 originals.
Yes, exactly. So you can use the same type of document for both applications, but you'll need to have separate copies of that document.
Great question. Thank you.
Hi. Okay, my question is, my mom passed away in 74. I have a certified certificate of death that does say carcinoma of colon. But what other kind of documents can I get? She didn't work. I doubt I'd get voting records from back then.
Okay,
We're gonna
so
get the deed, for the address. It was Berkeley, but
Okay, so this is a St. Louis County question, but this could happen in St. Charles. And this is, you have a death certificate that has the diagnosis, but how do you find proof of residency in something like going back to 74?
So we at the library can help with that. We have quite a few city directories that are in the process of being digitized if they haven't already been. So we can help look through different databases and find those records for you that you can send in.
even for St. Louis County.
Yes, and St. Louis County Library actually has a very extensive genealogy center, and so they also have an online form that you can fill out to have them search.
Okay. Okay, so I'll go over there and make an appointment.
And then I will add, St. Louis County Board of Election is the only election authority that microfishes their election information. And so they may have that information. And they have a intern who loves going through microfiche. And so they have her researching all this. So go to the St. Louis County Board of Election and request that information. But like with the St. Charles County Election Authority, giving name, date of birth, address to look at helps to narrow down that information. But they're the only ones I know of that that they do have a phone for this, but they're the only ones I know that have had a long tradition of microfishing that documentation.
Okay.
Let me add another thing just from being around this and getting a lot of questions, if you experts don't mind. So luckily, I fought really hard, and the senator was successful in adding or went to school, and that has proved to be incredibly valuable for proof. So whether this applies to you or somebody else, if you are having a hard time with prior to 74, my office called the Archdiocesan, and even if that Catholic school closed, they have the records from all of those schools. So go through her history to see if you can get some kind of proof of residency through a school. And that's for any of you. Look into your school records as an option.
She went to Rittner.
Call them and see if they have any old information, or look for a yearbook from their library or from their yearbooks on hand.
Okay, and then one question. I used my chart to download my husband's cancer information, and then I had the doctor, he messaged me on my chart.
Okay, so that's all my chart, but does that still need a letter on the cover head from the doctor?
Handwritten, a signature.
So reach out to your doctor. You're going to need a cover letter.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So real quick about the schools. So the schools, the retention schedule, they have to keep the record for 70 years after you graduate. 70. And that's in their, that's a state retention schedule. So, no, I think it's all schools. So,
If you find a school that doesn't have the records, call Senator Hawley's hotline and they'll help you come up with another idea. I think that's a good one-off. Okay.
My son, can you hear me? My son had cancer. He's still living. So he
I
can
do.
file. Okay.
Yes.
And what about his father that died?
Okay.
Can he file with the siblings?
Okay, so your son and father, but is your son's father your husband?
Yeah. It's the
Okay.
father of
Because
the-
sometimes that
the
could be, you know,
father of
you're
him.
married to someone else.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, can my son file?
His
Now,
own-
in this case, the son's father was her spouse. So walk through what that looks like for the son in this situation, because the surviving spouse is still alive.
No, wait.
Sorry?
My son had thyroid cancer and he's still living. My son.
Right, so he
wants
files.
to file for the 50,000 or whatever.
Yes, so he files. So the son is an official claimant, so he
But
files.
he's one of the siblings. There's 3 siblings. Okay, and his of the father that died.
Okay.
So
Okay,
does-
so you're asking about the father, but you said that was your husband when he died.
well, ex-husband, yeah. But I'm
Okay, so then that's a question, because if you were still married to him when he died, you would be the claimant. If you were passed, it would be the 3 kids, but in this case, it was no longer your spouse. Was he married to someone else?
No.
Okay, so then the question is, can the son be a claimant, but also a party for his parent? And the answer is yes. It would be, all of the siblings would be divided
So
equally.
They have to do it together, you said, supposedly.
Separate claims. He would file a claim for himself. Then there would be another application. He could be the sibling that fills it out, but he would have to put all of his siblings as claimants.
They can't each do it separately.
No, one application.
One application. And is a death certificate just good enough for like his father? Does
The
he-
question was for the
Does he
father
have a-
that's passed, is a death certificate good enough? You do know they have to show that that was their father, right? Show who they are, show that was their father. They have to show residency, and then they have to show the death,
and he
what the
doesn't have to
diagnosis.
get any stuff from the doctor?
Okay, so then your question is, the last question for that would be, if the diagnosis is on the death certificate or the long form, and that would have the diagnosis. Is that your question?
And it's
Okay,
stamped and everything.
so they have a death certificate that says the appropriate diagnosis. Does that work?
If the cancer is on the death certificate, even if it's not the cause of death, but the cancer is indicated and the physician's signature is also present, or the medical examiner, that is considered proof of diagnosis. It suffices as medical documentation.
And it needs to be a seal, not a copy.
Yeah.
If it's a copy, there needs to be a cover letter.
It's a seal.
Okay, perfect. So we answered the seal question.
The one you get all
Yes,
the time.
thank you
But
very,
you're not all-
very much. Your son does have a lot of work to do, and I'm glad he's still with us.
Yeah.
Hi. I have a question, but now since we've been talking, I have 2 more quick ones. Okay, so if I had cancer, which I had cancer, so I'm going to apply for the 50,000. You said the other one was a lump sum. Is the 50,000 also a lump sum, and is it taxed?
No, hold on. If you are the survivor,
Yeah, I had cancer.
right, you had cancer.
Yeah.
So it is $50,000 or your out-of-pocket medical. So you decide whichever is more, if you have proof that you have more than out-of-pocket $50,000.
Whichever's more.
Whatever is more,
50,000. I paid less than 50,000 for my treatment.
then you're gonna go for the 50,000 lump sum.
It is a lump sum.
Yes,
And is it taxed?
it is not taxed.
Good, thanks. Okay, my real question is the kind of cancer.
I think you answered somebody else's question.
The type of cancer I had is not listed, but when you look it up and what causes it, exposure to radioactive waste definitely causes it. I've asked Senator Hawley, it's been 8 days, I'm
really sorry
Who
because
did
I
I
hate
ask?
this. My son falls in that same
Okay,
deal.
yeah, I don't
He's
know where-
extremely rare.
Same.
Okay. The only child they could find in history where he had cancer as primary without being treated with chemo and radiation. There's not enough documentation. It wasn't included in the original RECA. My very own son is not included in this program. So I know how that feels. So what I have been told is if it is not on that list, you can't check that box, you aren't covered. However, that's why we try to say, I will wrap my arms around you, I will go to DC with you, because I will help advocate for you and for the other ones with rare cancers.
Yes.
But it's not now included.
Thank you. Who's making these decisions? Doctors, politicians? I mean.
The Department of Justice used the original RECA program, and when they reinstated it, they included us into a program that already existed. To get Missouri's foot in the door was what we had to do because we fought for this for 80 years. Now we have to do the next step that says, now that we've arrived, we need you to look at my situation. We need you to look at my zip code and my residency.
So what do I do to help them?
My cell phone, if you want to help,
You're the person
is 314.
I got it.
Okay, and I'm serious.
That was a one-off.
Raise your hand if you've been to DC with me and been put in front of the news to help advocate. A lot of these people in this front row have been to DC, have stood in front of the news, and have helped advocate. That's how we do it. Butts in seats, constantly on the phone, constantly sending out emails to senators and congressmen when we get to 2027.
And if I can just add on to that, we are doing our very best at Senator Hawley's office to document those kinds of cases so that we have an idea of what to advocate for when the program is up for renewal. We are trying to get to every single message, voicemail.
This hits home, obviously, for me and obviously for you. So can I repeat this to the cameras? If you have a rare cancer that is not currently covered, if you have a zip code that is not currently covered, can her and I call the RECA hotline from Senator Hawley and say, Senator Hawley, you don't need to return our call, but please document that this is the case with my son, this is the case with yourself, this is the zip code of my situation. Please document it so that in 2027 it matters. Still call me, we're still going to DC.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Hi, sorry. So I have my mom's pathology report. It's not the very first one, but it is one, and I have the certificate. But it also says that she had emphysema and all the other stuff. Is that going to affect?
That's a great question. And I think I already love the answer. She's not going to be shamed for having any other illness. If she checks that cancer box, that is her diagnosis to be covered.
Okay, so even if she was a smoker and all that, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Right, it doesn't matter. And I know this because of Denise Brock, who I had stand up, and it was the EOICP CPA program. And what a lot of this standard is, it's considered more likely than not. That means 51%. And I had a friend who didn't make it. She called me and she said, I have bile duct cancer. My sister thinks it could be related to Francis Howell, but I don't think so. I'm not sure. Then I told her, but do you think it's more likely than not? Is it possible it's 51% sure? And she was very much 51% sure. So when you guys are thinking about that, I know that's a hard thing to take in, but just keep in mind that the government is accepting responsibility currently for these 16 cancers if it's more than likely not caused by this exposure that laid in our soil, our water, and our air for more than 80 years.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
School districts. Can someone help me make them aware that they need to retain some kind of enrollment record?
Okay, so this is school district. Let's just name names because sometimes we can help them.
The name is Francis Howell.
Okay, so Francis Howell needs some
When I
help.
called them today, they
Okay.
said, maybe the school has the enrollment record. I said, I'll do it. I'll call the school. And the school said, maybe they were sent to the high school you didn't attend. To which I said, thank you. And I thought, my next call will be the superintendent.
Okay, so this is getting a bit of a runaround from Francis Howell. Are you trying to, that you went to Francis Howell High School?
No, I did not attend the high school, and I cannot get a transcript from them. I attended an elementary school and a junior high. Their thought was...
Okay, and wait, hold on. Was the elementary and the junior high in the covered zip code?
Yes.
Okay, so what we're going to do is give you a week. We're going to call, and I can help too. Let's call Francis Howell and let them know that we have an elementary school and a junior high that would have been in the covered area. Was that the John Weldon school that burned down?
No.
What school is what school?
Well, the junior high was Hollenbeck, and co-located is an elementary school. I mean, they're right next door. It's Central Elementary.
Okay, so Central and Hollenbeck, which would be in 63304, because I live down the road from there. Let's see if we can provide them assistance. And then I'm trying to figure out, because there's going to be a lot of people that would have went to Hollenbeck. That's a lot of the people that went to Francis Howell and went to Central. Once we get Francis Howell to help assist them and show them, like, really what I think we have is just an education issue. The person who picks up the phone probably didn't have that answer, right? So we can help them get that, how to answer that question if somebody calls from RECA. Once we find out that they had the educational moment, I will post it on my page. How do we communicate that they are prepared? I guess people will stop having that question. That's one way to do it. So give them a few days to let people know.
The records, then
I'm sorry?
If they don't have the records, I think they have an obligation to work with.
I think they had to retain the records. So let's give them a chance to educate the person answering the phone. I know that Francis Howell's been very helpful. They've even asked people to give them a little bit of time because they had a new, school starting. So now school's rolling, even for the middle school, central school. Let's have a conversation with them and then help them figure out where they get those records, and then make sure they have a script to tell people what they need to do. So the next person like you that calls will know exactly what to do. Do we think that's a fair approach? Yeah, that's what we will do, everything we can to help them, because so far I have not run into a single organization that is putting up any roadblocks. Everybody wants to see you win. Yeah, they said it, yes. So I think they have them. It's just an answer of the person who answered the phone didn't know how to respond to that question. Do you have any residency that doesn't require the school? Or did you live outside of 63304?
I'm just not a homeowner. I was a child. So I thought my own record with my own name seemed like a best evidence, more reliable.
Why don't you give that a shot? I think we can fix that. If not, call the recorder of deeds and figure out how you can get your parents' information.
Also, there are, of course, other supporting materials like the yearbooks that are available at the local library.
Exactly.
I viewed those tonight. And also, the local libraries are not equipped to provide any kind of certification for when you photocopy items there. They said
we're getting into let's fill out my whole form, and they're all very valid questions. Could you go to the very end so that way if we're not out of time, we can ask these additional questions if you don't mind? Because I think we can solve your whole problem if you just give us a week.
I'll give it a week.
Thank you.
Okay, my question is I didn't know if I should even file for this. My husband is recovering from esophageal cancer.
I'm
not in the zip code, but I'm right across the highway from him. I live right along Peru Creek, which comes off of Lake St. Louis water.
Yeah.
And it floods down in the bottom of our property, and my husband maintains that. And we've lived there over 30 years, actually almost 40 years. And so he's recovering now. And
okay, I have some fears about Peru Creek.
Yeah.
We can talk about that afterwards because I've had some personal injury lawyers talk to me specifically about that creek.
Yeah.
However, I want to see him win.
Yeah.
Did he go to any schools by any
He lived in
chance?
Clark for 2 years in St. Charles. He works for SSM in St. Charles, and he also works out at Kisker and Harvester. And
So then if Kisker and Harvester is 63304, if he has employment for more than 2 years in
been
63304,
over 20-some years.
yeah, use that. use that.
He's in and out of that building with like 5 other ones.
Yes.
He works on
So
it.
one of the buildings that he would work in for 20 years was 63304. Yes, use that.
So you don't think I should just say anything about the creek or anything like
We
that?
could talk about that creek because that's a one-off, but that's a
'Cause that's
whole
just, like,
different.
right across the highway from that zip code.
I know that.
What
So
do I do?
yes, do talk to some about including that zip code. Do that, what we just said. Let's advocate for that zip code. But as far as that creek, I just want to talk to you about some stuff people said that I just want you to
Talk
see
to
if
you
it's true.
afterwards?
Yeah, because it's kind of unrelated. Hi
My
there.
question pertains to if we're sending our forms in and we're sending all these original birth certificates, death certificates and that, how can we get those back? Or if they
Okay, I think there is an answer for that. So sending in these old original documents, a lot of times they have sentimental value. So when you release those in your application, how do you get those back?
So it's very much to our understanding that those documents are returned to you. Thankfully, there are ways for most documents to get a certified copy, and that's where Vital Records comes in at the state and local levels, is that they can provide you with copies of the birth certificates, the death certificates, the marriage license that will be recognized by the Department of Justice, and that way you don't have to part with your originals.
Is that something the county wants to speak to as far as the county getting some new copies for folks instead of their older documents?
I mean, everything that we're issuing is certified. So everything coming out of elections in the recorder's office is certified. Vital Records, they can issue it. It goes through Public Health is the website that you would go, and they have an online portal that you can go to order that. As far as getting like a divorce decree, they have an email address, which is on the recorder's website. It's underneath our marriage license page. And you could just click on the link. It automatically puts in their email address, and then you would just give them the names and the date of the divorce, and then they'll contact you through email.
Okay, so I do want to say this for the camera because that's going to come up and I know it has. So people are concerned about sending in original certified death, birth certificates, etc. We do believe the Department of Justice will send those back. However, if you are concerned about that, get certified copies or get copies that have a cover letter that is signed by that issuing agency. And that has got the nod of yes. They're $14. I bet they're different in different areas. Yes. Okay, they're going to be different areas. Okay, thank you.
help if you added
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. The answer is if you have old death certificates that are certified, marriage. Okay. Oh, okay. So the people on the panel. So what they were saying is you can go to their portals and get new copies. So that way you don't have to send in some of your old originals. You can retain those for sentimental reasons, even though we believe they would send them back. If you feel safer, go out to the portals they talked about in the PowerPoint and get new copies. Vital Records, you could get from the state, like the long form death certificate. For the shorter form death certificate, the county health department has that.
That's recorder of deeds. So that would be on that form that you could select deed, marriage license, or election, voter registration.
Why couldn't you just send an self-addressed stamped envelope and put in?
Read the form. I do believe I read something that talked about how to get your forms back. So read that. I do think there's instruction, or call Senator Hawley's staff. But that was a great question and it brought up some really good points. Thank you very much.
How important is an autopsy? Neither one of my parents have had an autopsy.
You don't need an autopsy for this
It is
program.
on the papers, so.
That's an or situation. So if you have other diagnosis information, that should work.
Okay. And I lived in 2 different addresses, both in the RECA.
You just have to have one that you prove residency.
Okay. And for my siblings.
Do you think there's any reason why they might need a different one. Because sometimes I think like when you look at that child that's diagnosed at age of 22, that might very much matter on the zip code. But outside of that, it's pretty cut and dry, right? Yeah,
It
it should be
says
cut and dry.
check all boxes that you lived in. So I didn't know if I needed something from
Yes.
this place or.
So there's, in the part where it asks you about, I forget which page it is. I want to say it's 7 or 8, where it has the zip code and the boxes. You do need to provide a record of the different zip codes you are in. It asks you for the years, it asks you for the town, it asks you for the zip codes. When it comes to the documentation to prove the residency, it's okay for that to just align with one of the zip codes.
Okay. And on siblings, I'll be filling out for my parents too. And both of my siblings have passed also. So all I need for them for proof is their death certificate, or do I need?
Okay, so that's a good question. So for a parent, if you're the only surviving sibling, what do you do about the other siblings?
So it's important in those cases to have the birth certificate and the death certificate, because the birth certificate establishes the parent-child relationship. The death certificate establishes that you are the only surviving beneficiary.
Do we know if it goes all then to the
Marriage
survivor?
certificate would be important for the name change, just so the Department of Justice can track that it's the same person.
Okay, so they need all of them. Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2008, and then 2023 it came back.
Okay, I'll repeat it.
I think it would be easier to get proof of residency if I just got medical on the 2023.
Okay, so the question is, I have a qualifying cancer in 2008, and then I had a separate qualifying cancer in 2023. Should I fill out the claim and use my 2023 diagnosis because it would be easier to find those records?
Yes, you can do that. You can focus on the most recent diagnosis and then provide the residency 2 years prior to that.
Even though it was a reoccurrence in the same spot.
As long as it's still considered a primary cancer, then yes, it still qualifies.
First, I want to say thank you for all your efforts and everything. It makes it much
Thank
more
you.
peace of mind to get through all this. But my question, and I appreciate it if you have to get back to me on this, because it's really about the future. I have 2 generations in my family that are affected by this, and I've got a 3rd generation that's gone through this entire community through their lives, and now I've got a 4th generation on the way. And I hopefully they don't get sick, but what are the efforts are that, and I apologize because I haven't read through all the material. I'm still new to this. How long is this program going to last if they do get sick in the future? And also, I mean, really the loaded question is, what are our efforts to prevent this from continuing perpetually?
Okay.
So
He just asked what I think is the most terrifying question in elephant in the room. And the question is, and I know this because I see one of my classmates, if we could make all generations safe, we would be willing to take the hit. And I know I see moms here. We don't know that answer. As moms, we've been told, and I have a kid that had cancer. I don't know if it's going to affect my other kids. I don't know if it's going to affect my child who had cancer. I don't know. But I will let you in on some legislation I'm working on at the state, and maybe the senator could do something too. We can talk about it. In the state of Florida, they passed genetic testing last year, and that was every newborn in the state of Florida is going to have the ability, if the parents ask for it, to get genetic testing. And I'm going to see if we can at least start with a pilot program in Missouri so that we can get this information for our children so we can answer those questions much sooner. I've also been working with Mercy Hospital to come up with an awareness campaign. There's a test by a company called Grail, and it's a simple blood test, and it can detect 55 cancers before you would ever show symptoms. That test, we're negotiating down from $1,000 to $750. I don't know if I can pass any kind of legislation. I can never promise that, but I'm going to work my butt off for awareness so that you feel safer for your kids. And I know we also have to keep staying on top of cleanup.
And I'm sorry for what you have to go through too.
Yeah.
Can I give you my name afterwards or get some more information?
I'm
to
sorry,
follow up?
I didn't hear
Can
that.
I give you my name afterwards to get follow-up or get some information from you to follow
100%.
up on it afterwards?
100%. And you can join us. We will be trying to advocate for this. Even if I'm back to being Chase's mom, I'm still going to DC, and I'd love you to join us if you have the chance, or I'll carry your story with me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Now I got to pull it together. Okay.
Mine is all about birth certificates.
Okay.
So if we're filing for siblings for parents, and there's 4 siblings,
Okay.
we have birth certificates, but we got the short form. Is that sufficient enough for parents?
That's to prove sibling?
Yes.
For your siblings?
Right,
Okay.
as their
Is a
parents.
short birth certificate enough to prove that was the parent for that child?
Yes.
The short form, okay.
Yes.
And if I'm filing for myself and I'm using that to show residency for my parents, with my parents, is a short form okay there? Because it has my name, it has my parents' name. Is that all we need? We don't
Make sure you have
They're all
2 original
certified.
copies.
Yeah.
Right.
They're all certified and everything.
Okay.
Yes, that should be fine.
Okay.
Thank you. And for us, room, we have 4 more people standing, and then I think we're going to get through it, but I'll stay here if anybody else has questions. Okay, we'll have 5 more questions.
I have a residency question.
Sure.
Father-in-law was a Missouri conservation officer at Bush Wildlife, 51 to 61, roughly. His wife qualifies under one of these, listed cancers. How do we prove her residency at Bush Wildlife?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat the question so everyone can follow along. Father-in-law worked at Bush Wildlife from 51 to 61. His wife was the one who had cancer. Okay, so did they work or go to school? Are you saying the only connection is he worked there? You're afraid he brought stuff home?
Right. They lived on the property at Bush Wildlife, in housing on Bush Wildlife.
I didn't even, that is the first time I ever heard that was a thing. I don't know if anyone has ever heard that. Okay, Denise, do you know how to prove residency? Have you had anyone that had proved residency at Bush Wildlife? Let's talk about that afterwards, because like I said, we all want you to be successful for your family. And we're all going to put our heads together because like I said, I never knew that there was somebody that lived there.
More than one.
Yeah, I did not know that. And you too, wow.
Was he a state employee? Because he worked for
I'm sorry.
Parks. Was he a state employee?
State employee?
Yes.
Okay.
Ah, okay. So did he live on property because he was a state? There we go. So the state would probably have records. We'll figure out how to help you.
Okay.
And we'll figure out how to help you.
Good. That's my spouse.
Oh, okay. Well, I was like, wow, 2 families. Okay, that's the family. Okay, thank you. I was like, what a mystery. Okay, that explains it.
Good evening. I have a question and proof of residency. The house I grew up in is still there. It's in the 63304. When we moved there, it was 63301. How do I prove that the zip code changes, or do I just?
Okay, what about that being a map? So this is a question of the house was in 63301, but it's currently in 63304?
Yeah.
Okay, so can they use a map for
This
this?
is why we're doing the letter verification that's going with that. So it states that we were able to verify the address with the assessor with that given zip code that's in the qualifying program.
So through the assessor's office, I could.
So
get that?
it's still coming from the recorder, so you don't have to contact them. It's going to come with that deed that you order.
Okay.
It's going to say the address and verify that zip code on it and say, so even though it's not on that deed showing that zip, the letter that accompanies the deed is going to say that, yes, it is within the qualifying zip code.
Fantastic. And then one other question is, how long has the cancer registry been doing, like, can I get records from 96 or 75 or?
How old has how long has the cancer registry been in effect?
So for the state of Missouri, the cancer registry has been in existence since 1984. So they should have a record of the cancers from that point on to the present. Again, the cancer registry is not necessarily a source of documentation, but you can authorize that in addition to the medical records you would provide.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cancer registry don't guarantee before 95 when they started having to do it.
Okay, so we have a resident expert, and I can certify her as a resident expert. She's saying that before 95, they might not have the full answers that you're looking for, so make sure you have another source or try to get another source. Okay, thank you, resident expert.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
I lived in Florissant. I grew up in Florissant, but then I moved to St. Charles, or that zip code also. Can I use my St. Charles zip code? Because when I did get my records from McClure North, you can't read them. I mean, I can't read them, and I know what they're supposed to say. My address. I mean, it's so faint. So if I can use my St. Charles.
This comes up for so many people. I mean, I grew up in North County, moved to St. Charles County, so many of us did. Can you use your St. Charles County zip code if you can't read your records from your North County older records?
They're both in the same, I mean, they're both in the RECA.
Sure, they're both in qualifying zip codes. If you can prove the St. Charles residency prior to the diagnosis, those 2 years prior, then yes, you can use that zip code.
15 years prior, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And thanks for all you guys are doing.
Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Hi there.
So I moved in Florissant with my ex.
Uh-huh.
Then we got married. Then we got divorced. Then I changed my name back to my maiden name.
Okay.
So do I still need all those documents, or I'm still my maiden name now, or can I use that?
Great question. and I can assure you, I have received this question at least one other time, and probably more, so you're not alone in asking. If it's easy enough to obtain that paper trail for the Department of Justice, then I would, simply because they do ask for those documents. If it's difficult, your birth certificate will prove that that's who you are because you go by that name.
Right.
The only other caveat I would add is because you were living with your ex, if those documents would help to establish the residency, then I also would include them.
Okay, because I ended up getting the house, so my name was on it with my married name, but then I changed it back. So when I sold it, it was my maiden name.
I would include the entire paper trail in this case so that they know that it's you all the way.
This is going to come up. So again, I'm going to walk to the camera. And this is, if I have a maiden name, I get married, I get divorced, do I have to provide that paper trail? And in the story that was presented, there was the married name at the beginning of the residency on the deed, but when the home was sold, the woman had her maiden name when she sold the house. So to keep it very clean, it would be easier to show the paper trail of the marriage and the divorce so that it really does follow the story that this person was in that home to satisfy residency. Do you believe I summarized that correctly? Got the nod from the great doctor. We so much appreciate you being here.
Hello. I just got here because my husband just called me. This is the situation. My husband grew up, he played ball with his dad, Coldwater Creek, North County. Grew up playing there. Then they moved to Weldon Spring. His playground was the town where the Manhattan Project was. He went in playing in the town. He's like, it was the weirdest thing. The coffee mugs are still there.
Oh, you're not talking about the town. You're straight up talking about the factory.
The factory.
I don't know if you know this, but they abandoned it when they left. And a lot of Francis Howell kids jumped the fence and they would play with the beakers. And they said even lunch boxes were still sitting there covered in dust.
That was
Yes,
him.
factory.
They just thought, haha, this is a cool playground. He went to the high school there.
Right.
This past June, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor on his spinal cord. 112 cases since 1954. It's not cancer.
What?
It's not cancer.
Okay.
But it is so ungodly rare.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to put it in this medical chart and stuff like that. What we don't know, and we've already called, he called the 800 number, we got on, talked to somebody, got on the list. We don't know if we're doing it correctly. No one can tell us because everybody's like cancer, cancer, cancer. This is such an ungodly rare tumor.
Yeah,
Like,
it's happened a lot to Francis Howell. We have a malignant hair follicle. I mean, it's
Right.
crazy. We at some point need to say, if this has happened less than 1,000, heck, some of us 500, because it's so rare.
It's so
Yes.
it's so ungodly rare.
What year was he a graduate? Like 88 or something?
93. No, he graduated high school in 94. but
Okay, I would have went to school with him then.
But again, his dad, thyroid cancer. So his parents are looking into it. But my main concern is my husband right now.
Right.
Because it is so rare. Like, is it only cancer? Because
Yes.
it's not just.
That's why I tell my story.
It is a huge, I have a picture of it. He has a huge tumor on his spinal cord in his brain. We're with Siteman. They're afraid to remove it. He has no feeling in his arms. He
I'm
doesn't
so
have,
sorry.
like, it's been a kick in the face.
Let's talk about this one afterwards. Let's
fine.
spend
I
some
just
time.
need help.
I'm not saying because I want to push it aside,
No.
because I'm saying let's see if we can just sit there and brainstorm what we could do next. Like if this isn't something we can do right now, how do we brainstorm this? Denise Brock. Okay.
I have the name of the tumor. I have all that.
Okay, can I have you go now? The reason why, come talk to Denise Brock. She's been working with workers. She told me while I was advocating that the people that went to Francis Howell and lived and played in the quarry or in the factory are presenting cancers similar to nuclear bomb workers, not just residents. Nuclear bomb workers. We have autoimmune diseases that are off the charts. She is your expert on that. What's happening with additional cancers. Come over. There's a chair. You can sit by her and have a conversation, and I'll join you afterwards because it's important to me too for your husband and our other classmates.
I have one. I think it's a very simple question. My wife passed away from breast cancer. She had a son from another marriage. Am I filing for myself or how
Okay,
does
so
this work?
his wife passed away. That means he fills out the form for his wife.
Because you were married to her at the time she passed away, correct? Then yes, you would be the surviving
Be
beneficiary.
the surviving beneficiary. There was a little confusion about that with talking to several people.
Sure.
I wasn't really sure about it. I just want to do the right thing.
Yes.
He needs to be included. I want to include him.
Child is only included if the surviving spouse is no longer surviving. Does that make sense? How would you say that other than that?
If there is no surviving spouse, either through divorce or death.
But because I am the surviving spouse.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
Like a lot of people, I grew up in Florissant. Was mandated.
Can you talk into the mic a little bit?
I grew up in Florissant.
Yeah.
Was mandated by my school district through field biology to play in the creek and collect specimens and take them back to school. I then moved, as I grew up, to Lake St. Louis. I'm between Bush Wildlife and Perk Creek, and was diagnosed in 2008, and I've been fighting it, 2018, and been fighting it since. And my question is, since I spent the majority of my childhood at the exposure, and I've lost 12 classmates just from my graduating class from rare cancers, that I feel that's where the problem came from. So if I file, should I put my focus on North County or
So many of us are in the same boat. So this is, again, I grew up in North County. I moved to St. Charles County. Where should I establish residency?
So you can indicate all of the zip codes in that section where it has the tick boxes for the zip codes. That at least gives the Department of Justice your full picture, your full story. But in terms of documenting one of the zip codes, whatever is easier for you. Because you went to Ferguson Florissant?
McClure North. Yeah, Ferguson Florissant, McClure North.
Yes, yes. So that school district, they have been really fantastic with ramping up their progress to get records. It has been a little bit of a process to get, but they're on track now.
Yeah, the lady was not good to my mother in the beginning, and she has lung cancer too. But I think she's doing better now.
Okay, so we heard that she feels like the McClure North are hard to read. So if it's easier for St. Charles County for those documents to read, we're suggesting you do that one.
It's really hard for my mom too, because she moved to Florida, and so it's been a real struggle for her.
Okay, so she's also her own claimant?
Yeah, she was diagnosed, also did the Grail test, and was 0% chance, and 2 months later, non-smoker, 26 nodules in her lungs, middle right lobe, lung removed in February. So, and my second question is regards to the difference of the benefit or the benefit with the medical out of pocket. I myself, $14,000 a year out of pocket. I've been in treatment for 7 years. That's just shy of $100,000. I want to know how they determine what the benefits have to come from. I mean, the expenses have to come from. I had a faulty port that caused me to endure a lot of other medical problems that I was otherwise healthy. The only thing I had wrong, I'm always been diabetic. But other than that,
but the port was put in because of the cancer.
Because of the cancer.
Okay.
It had a hole in it.
So how does she collect those medical expenses? Because she's a case where it would be fair that she is reimbursed for her out of pocket.
So,
and just so you know, there was a class action lawsuit on the port, and mine was dismissed without prejudice. So because some attorney in California probably got a pat on the shoulder and said, don't do anything about the ones that were the enhanced boards. It doesn't matter. It still had a hole.
Sure. Since there's so many unique components of your case, let me actually get your contact information afterwards, and I'll follow up with you on some of the particulars of this, because it's going to start to get more complicated.
Understand. Thank you. Thank you for everything you guys have done.
Thank you.
Hi. My question is about documenting employment. So if I have to provide W-2s or whatever, do those documents need to be certified? Or if those are in my possession, can I use those?
Okay, so by any chance, did you work out at Weldon Spring on the remediation?
I worked in Hazelwood.
Okay, so his employment was in Hazelwood. And first off, do you have any residency? That would be easier, because it's still your only qualifier is where you worked.
Right. I live in Lake St. Louis now, but it wouldn't. I couldn't document that prior to.
Sure. Okay. So how does he make sure he's got certified records of his employment?
But you said you have the originals in your possession. Yes. So you can send your originals. Those will be accepted. It's either originals or certified copies.
What about tax records that prove he would have paid taxes as that being the employer?
But then there are also options to order some kinds of certified copies. You can order tax documents through the IRS. Sometimes employers will cooperate. There's several different options.
Medical records too would have perhaps where you worked as well sometimes, because they might have your insurance information. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you
All right,
very much.
Thank you.
On proof of residency, my question is, we're the same as lots of people. We were in North County and then we moved out here. So the initial diagnosis for my stepmom's cancer happened when she was in North County. When we do proof of residency, do we need to do proof of residency for when she was diagnosed with her cancer?
Okay, so that makes sense. But so the question was, we lived in North County. We also lived in St. Charles County. So that is the zip codes. But however, the diagnosis happened when they were still living in North County.
Correct. And she passed away in St. Charles.
So, but I think I know that answer. You're going to have to show proof of residency 2 years prior to that diagnosis.
County, right?
So use your North County records.
Just making sure. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
I think this question might have been asked, but I didn't quite understand.
That's
it.
fine.
We have a lot of older people in this room, and our kids have grown up in North County and in, in these places. What if one of them is diagnosed? Not these people with families now. It's diagnosed in the next 6 months. Does that qualify them?
They would have to fill out the application before the end date of December 31st of 2027. We also hope to reauthorize it for another 2 years before when that comes to a close.
Okay, so if these events would happen to our family members before December 31st, 2027, they could apply for help.
Yes, and unfortunately, we're just exposed humans. So there's a chance that will happen. That means I opened this story about a 91 graduate from Howell who had that shirt.
Yes.
When we talked about this, that seemed like the furthest thing from his mind, but he just now has been diagnosed. He wasn't diagnosed when we first talked about this program a couple months ago. It's a perfect example. So yes, he is filling out the application now.
Thank you.
That
so
will
much.
continue to happen, and it's really terrifying. So
Yeah, because when these things happen, we need to be able to tell our family members, you have something to do.
okay, so she also said we got to make sure we tell our family members. Let's touch on that since this is our last question. The last meeting that we had, there's 500, if not more. We actually had them lined up as our first meeting after RECA passed. And I told people it is so incredibly important that every person in this room, if you hear somebody tell you, oh, so-and-so family me has cancer, ask them if they lived, worked, or went to school, because if they don't have cancer, they probably don't even know about this program. It is so incredibly hard. We still get people who say, I didn't even know there was a nuclear bomb plant next to my high school, right? So they certainly don't know about RECA, and they don't have to live in this state. Also, just telling people that this RECA exists is going to create awareness. Again, like the story I told you, I had to reach out to him. That's how he became aware, and the surgery will be the cure. Awareness will save lives. So what does that mean? If you talk to people, you will absolutely save lives. If everybody in this room talks to 6 people, lives will be saved just by the people that are in this room. And I think that concludes this meeting. If any of you want to stand around and talk to us, we do have a little bit of time while they clean up, and we'll all be here if you want to just have a conversation.
It's a birth certificate, it's a certification. It's not